That is the word most often associated with Elena Rybakina. In the high-stakes, pressure cooker environment of the WTA Tour, the Kazakhstan superstar has built a reputation on an unshakable, almost robotic calm. But what happens when the ice finally cracks? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are unpacking one of the most intense, statistically bizarre, and psychologically complex matches of the 2026 season so far. Elena Rybakina's grueling Miami Open quarterfinal victory over Jessica Pegula. But this wasn't just a tennis match. It was a pressure test that exposed the fascinating, often turbulent dynamic between Rybakina and her coach, Stefan Vukov, and set the stage for a titanic semifinal clash against the reigning world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. This raises significant questions about the current state of on-court coaching, the physiological toll of the modern tennis calendar, and the immense psychological weight carried by the sport's elite. If we look closely at what happened under the lights in Miami, the optics suggest that the battle against the opponent across the net was secondary to the battle happening within Rybakina's own team. Before we break down the tactical anomalies of this match and the explosive audio caught on the courtside microphones, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into the analytics and psychology of the ATP and WTA tours every single week. Now, let's get into the tactical anomaly that pushed Rybakina to her absolute limit. To understand why Rybakina boiled over, we first have to understand the match itself. Jessica Pegula did not just show up. She executed a tactical masterclass that forced Rybakina into deeply uncomfortable territory. In fact, Pegula did something that normally guarantees a victory. She won more total points in the match than Rybakina did in statistics. This is akin to Simpson's paradox, a phenomenon where a trend appears in several different groups of data but disappears or reverses when these groups are combined. In tennis, because of the segmented scoring system of games and sets, a player can win blowout games on their serve but narrowly lose crucial, high-leverage points, resulting in a loss on the scoreboard despite a victory in the aggregate point count. Pegula's strategy was clear: absorb, redirect, and extend. By neutralizing Rybakina's devastating first serve and keeping the ball deep in the court, the American forced Rybakina to hit 3, 4, or 5 extra balls per rally. We have to discuss the physiological impact of this tactic, especially in the notoriously heavy, humid air of Miami. The conditions in South Florida are uniquely punishing. The air density slows the ball down, robbing aggressive flat hitters like Rybakina of their natural weapon: penetration through the court. Every time Rybakina stepped up to finish a point, the ball came back. This kind of match acts as an acid test for a player's cardiovascular endurance and lactic acid tolerance. But more importantly, it tests their mental elasticity. When your primary weapon, first-strike tennis, is neutralized by a combination of atmospheric conditions and an opponent's sheer grit, panic can set in. And right before Pegula was due to serve for the first set, that panic manifested on the sidelines. The modern era of tennis has embraced off-court and on-court coaching, fundamentally altering the isolated, gladiatorial nature of the sport. But this constant stream of communication is a double-edged sword. Midway through this excruciating battle, the microphones picked up coach Stefan Vukov issuing a very specific directive. As Pegula prepared to serve for the first set, Vukov pleaded with his player, "Elena, grind tennis. Grind. Full character. Fully grind. Come on, hit the ball." Rybakina's response was uncharacteristically visceral. Walking away from her box, she fired back, "You see, it doesn't work. What are you talking about? Let's analyze this exchange, because it is incredibly revealing." Vukov's instruction to grind goes fundamentally against Rybakina's baseline identity. She is a first-strike, aggressive baseliner. Asking a player built for power to suddenly become a counterpunching grinder in the middle of a high-stakes match against Jessica Pegula, one of the best natural grinders on the tour, is a massive tactical risk. Rybakina felt the game plan failing in real time. Her response wasn't just frustration. It was a tactical veto from a player who realized that trying to outgrind Pegula in Miami was a losing proposition. This moment forces us to look at historical tennis precedents. We've seen highly combustible coach-player dynamics before. Think back to the intense, highly scrutinized relationships of the past, where the line between motivation and overbearing pressure was constantly blurred. Rybakina and Vukov have a turbulent history that we cannot ignore. The data from 2025 reminds us of the unprecedented intervention by the WTA, which temporarily banned Vukov for what was deemed abusive conduct toward his player. While he successfully appealed that decision later in 2025 and returned to her box, the optics of their relationship remain a subject of intense scrutiny across the tennis world. Since his return, they have undeniably achieved massive success, capturing the WTA finals, winning the Australian Open, and making a deep run at Indian Wells. But this mid-match argument in Miami reveals the scar tissue that still exists. The friction is palpable. It asks a vital question regarding the financial and psychological structure of the tour. At what point does the cost of a high-stress coaching dynamic outweigh the millions of dollars in prize money and Grand Slam glory it produces? The emotional toll of constantly battling both your opponent and your own corner is an invisible weight that only the athlete truly understands. The argument between Rybakina and Vukov didn't happen in a vacuum. It is a symptom of a much larger issue, the grueling nature of the Sunshine Double, Indian Wells and Miami. From a financial perspective, these two WTA 1000 events are the crown jewels of the spring hard-court swing. The tour relies heavily on these mandatory events to generate broadcast revenue, sponsorships, and global fan engagement. However, the physiological and mental demands placed on the players to peak for 4 consecutive weeks across 2 different time zones and completely different microclimates are staggering. Rybakina went deep in Indian Wells, reaching the final. The quick transition to Miami leaves almost no time for central nervous system recovery. When athletes are operating on the absolute margins of physical exhaustion, emotional regulation is the first thing to go. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logical decision-making and emotional control, is fatigued. This is exactly why we see more mid-match meltdowns, racket smashes, and coaching arguments during the Miami Open than almost any other tournament on the calendar. Rybakina's outburst wasn't just about Vukov's advice to grind. It was the culmination of weeks of relentless, high-stakes competition. She was running on fumes, forced to confront a resilient American opponent who was backed by a vocal home crowd. The fact that Rybakina managed to reset, override her coach's advice, trust her own tactical instincts, and pull out the victory is a testament to an elite champion's mindset. It is a brilliant display of cognitive reframing in real time, and she will need every ounce of that champion's mindset, because her reward for surviving the Pegula test is a semifinal matchup against the absolute pinnacle of women's tennis right now, world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. With Iga Swiatek currently sitting at world number 3, the Sabalenka-Rybakina rivalry has arguably become the most defining matchup of the 2026 season. Because of the way the seedings fell, with Rybakina entering the tournament as the 3rd seed, we are getting this blockbuster clash a round earlier than the fans, and the tournament